You can draw this in Procreate. Get from beginner to pro in just 3 steps. In our first beginner step, you will learn how to use a base shape to sketch and draw a simple little hippo. Once you have completed that step, it's easy to go to the next level and add color and more detail. And once you have completed that step, it's easy to take it to the last level and add this painterly effect with shadows and highlights. For this Procreate drawing tutorial, we're working on a canvas that is 3,500 pixels by 3,500 pixels, and I have left a link to the color palette in the description. It's totally free. So if you're ready, let's get started with step 1. The first thing we need to do to draw our cute hippo is sketch out some basic shapes to help guide us. And for that sketch, I would like to use the 6B pencil. You can find it under sketching, but of course you can use any sketching brush you like. Just grab black or a very dark color. And then I have the opacity of my brush at 100% and I have the size set to 30%. And now we are going to sketch out a circle. And to sketch a circle, what's nice is to make multiple movements. Just go round like this. And this takes some practice. And if you find this too hard, then of course you can also make a circle using the quick shape. You can just draw a circle and then hold your pen in place to make something that looks smooth. So we have this base circle that will be the head of our hippo, or at least like the base shape. This will be our guide for drawing the head. And I will make an oval shape underneath. So something like this. I'll just make multiple ovals, trying to find the shape that I need. Something like this. And it should be more like small over here. These are too big, but it'll help us find that base shape. The head should be a little bit wider than this part of the body. And then what I like to do when sketching is just using the eraser set to the soft brush, for instance, and then gently go over those base shapes, just like what you do when you use traditional media. When you use pencils, you can make your base shapes, and then you can use an eraser and just soften it a little bit. And now we can remain on the same layer and start refining our sketch a little bit and adding more elements to our hippo, because of course this doesn't look like a hippo yet. So let's grab our brush again, and then for this hippo, I'd like to give him ears, and I'll just make a little circle. And another ear here. I want the head to be slightly turned. So I'll make a line like this. We'll have the forehead and then that snout. It'll be a little bit like this. A curve. So direct it to the right. And this will be like that center line of its face. We'll make a line like this. And now we can start refining the head. Here we have the top part. And then here we can go down and make this part stick out a little bit. That will be that snout. And then here we can follow that curve like this. And here we have the back of its head also following our circle. And here we can go a little bit wider, making the back of its body. And then I'd like to create one leg over here. And we keep it very simple, just like this rounded, almost like rectangular shape. Then here we can make its belly go up like this. And then here we have the other leg. And then over here we also have belly. We'll follow that circle and then make another curve like this and a shape like this. And then we have that other foot, his hind leg, right under those like flaps under its belly. Then here we'll have like its chin. We can make a little line for like its chin. And then let's make a curve for its mouth. I'd like to go up a little bit in the center. So we'll have a curve like this here, and then we'll curve like this on the outside, giving him a nice smile. And then for the eyes, we'll have one over here and one on this side. And since the head is turned, the space between the eye and the center line will look wider on this side than on this side. It's foreshortened. We have this eye over here. And now it already starts to look a bit like a hippo. Let's give him these nostrils. And we can add like the irises to the eyes. Here we can extend this line. And we can add some more detail to the ear. Let's make something like a semicircle here. Looks a bit like Shrek's ears. And then on this side, also with something of a semicircle here. We can also add eyebrows. Let's go for something like this, just a little curve above the eye. And here we can't see the entire eyebrow, just a little part of it. And let's go in and refine the eyes a little bit. What you can do, again, if you ever want to refine something, if you want to make cleaner lines, you can go back to your eraser and just go over the areas that you want to clean. You can also get rid of this line, just like with real pencils. We can clean this up a bit. And now we can go back to the brush and we can refine the eye. I want to make it a little bit pointy here on the left, and then a nice curve here. And then we have that iris with a pupil. And we can add a little extra curve or like a little eyelid. And then on this side as well, just tidy it up a little bit. Here we can also make that right part just a little bit more like pointy, not really pointy, but here it's just more rounded. And then that iris, you'll see less of the white of the eye here. So don't make it the exact same as this one. You'll see more of the iris. And then of course the pupil. Now we can refine this curve a little bit. That eye is very close to the side of the face here. All right, so now that we have our sketch, we can create our line art. First thing I'd like to do is lower the opacity of this sketch. You can go to the layer menu and then tab the N and then slide to the left to, for instance, 25%. And then make a new layer on top by tapping the plus. Then for the brush, I'd like to go to the inking brushes and use the dry ink brush. It has a nice little texture. I feel like this brush is a bit more forgiving. If your lines are a little bit wonky, it will still look nice. And then for the color, let's use this first color in the first row. Now the opacity of this brush should be at 100%. And I'll set the size to 10%. And with this brush, the harder you press, the thicker your line will become. And if you press lightly, it'll get thinner. At least that is if you are using a pen that has pressure sensitivity like the Apple Pencil. And now let's just go in here and follow our lines. And you can play around with the thickness a little bit. Make some lines a little bit thinner. And here and there you can add a little bit of thickness. And of course you can rotate your canvas to make it easier to create those curves. We'll create those ears. With a little circle inside. Here I'll just rotate so it's easier to create this curve this way. And then for the eyes, nice curve like this. And for the pupil, we can just color that in entirely. Here we have that eyebrow. And of course this nostril. And then the other eye. And if at any point you need to erase a line, fix something, then I would suggest tapping and holding the eraser to make it switch to the dry ink brush so that when you erase, you will still have that same texture on the outside of your lines. It looks weird if you use a soft brush, for instance, to erase, and then you'll get these soft edges around whatever you have erased. So try to stick with that same texture. Then the eyebrow. And let's make a little extra line for like an eyelid. And then the nostril. And then of course the mouth. And we can make this a little bit thicker. And then you can just do the same for the body, so it'll end up looking like this. And then once you got this, you can turn off your sketch layer or remove it entirely, and you have your cute hippo line art. But now that you have finished this phase, you might as well move on to the next to take this drawing to the next level. The first thing I'd like to do to take this hippo to the next level is add some more details. So let's make a new layer on top of this one. We'll tap the plus. And for instance, what I see with hippos is that they have, well, mostly they are bald, but they have these little hairs growing from their ears. I did some hippo research before drawing this little guy. And I saw those hairs on their ears. So let's just make some hairs sticking out. Easy process. Then let's also add these circles or these lines around the nostril so it gets a bit more of a 3D effect. So just some lines like this is enough to already give it a 3D effect here as well. Just a little curve. And let's also give it some more like wrinkles and folds. Like for instance, on its belly, we just go like this. We can make a little fold here. Just these animals look a little bit wrinkly. They have too much hippo in there. I don't know. They get these nice folds. And let's also do that over here around its belly. Little line here, extra fold here. I didn't want this line, so let me just grab the eraser and remove this. And let's also give him toes. They have these big toes. So let's just make these rounded shapes. This one is covered a little bit, something like that. And over here as well. And over here. And then for this foot, just that extra touch. Of course, we don't want that line going through there. So we can go to our initial line art layer and then grab the eraser, make sure that it's set to the dry ink brush. And now we can go over here and remove the lines that go through the toes. Over here as well. That's just a little extra touch that our hippo needs. Now let's give him color. We're going to add the color on a separate layer, but first let's merge these two, our two line art layers. Then we'll make a layer underneath. First tap this one and tap the plus. And then for the brush, I'd like to use the Studio Pen, which has nice, clean, crisp edges. And for the color, we will use this one, fourth color in the first row. Now the opacity of the brush should be at 100%. I have the size at 20, but the size doesn't really matter. What we need to do is just follow the outer edge of our hippo, so we can get one big closed shape. So I'll just go along the outside. And of course, what you could do is set your line art layer to reference by tapping it and then setting it to reference, and then drop this color in on a layer underneath. But since we have used a pretty textured brush for our line art, you usually get some empty areas. It doesn't fill in a very clean way. So usually when I use textured line art brushes, I just fill shapes like this. And I don't mind going over the entire drawing like this. It's kind of relaxing. Sometimes you'll find spots where you need to fix something. We're almost there. And then once we are here, we have a closed shape, and now we can drag in the color. Then let's make a layer on top. So we'll go to the layer menu, tap the plus, and then we'll grab this color. That's the sixth color in the first row. And let's use that for the eye. Let's just go in here and fill that. And this one as well. And we'll also use this color for the toes. And this one. Then let's grab this color over here, second color in the first row, and let's use that for the iris. And over here as well. And let's also use this for the nostrils. And then I'd also like to add highlights to the eyes. Let's make a layer on top of our line art. Let's tap the plus, and then let's grab this color again, sixth color in the first row. And we can use this inking brush and just make a nice little highlight. And over here. That is really a nice touch. Then for some extra color variety. When you look at hippos, they often have this nice touch of pink. So I'd like to add some pink in here. Let's first go to this layer, then tap the plus, and then let's set this layer to clipping mask. Now whatever we paint here, it'll only show up on this shape, on our hippo shape. And then for our brush, let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And for the color, we'll use this one, second color in the second row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 80%, the size at 15, and now let's just go over the belly. Don't worry about going over the legs, just go for something like this. And let's give it a nice pink cheek here as well. And now let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 7% and go along the inside of the ear here and over here as well. And then let's go to the eraser and let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the medium brush as an eraser. And let's go in here and clean this a bit. Let's set the opacity to 100%. Let's set the size to 4. And we'll go along this edge, clean that up. And we'll do the same over here along that leg. But you can see that the edge is still a bit soft. Over here along the leg. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. 10%, go along the chin, a little bit more over here. The bigger you make the brush, the softer that edge will become. Let's go for something like this. Then for some extra touches, let's give him some color variety on its body. Let's go back to the inking brushes, to the studio pen, and for the color, we'll go for this one, third color in the first row. And let's just go in there and add some of these like dots. It's to add some interest to its skin. Maybe a little bit over here. Some bigger, some a bit smaller. This adds a nice extra touch. So now you have a cute hippo with flat colors and some extra touches. You might as well go to the next phase, take it to the next level, and add lighting and a nice background. Let's start off with a simple base for our background. Let's just zoom out a little bit and let's make a new layer underneath our hippo. So let's go here, tap the plus, and then for our brush, I'd like to go to the artistic brushes. Where are they? there. And then I would like to use the Larapuna brush. And then for the color, let's start with this one. Third color in the third row. Let's just drop it on there. So we have a base. And then we are going to paint on this with some lighter and with some darker colors. Let's start with some lighter. Fourth color in the third row. And I have the opacity of this brush at 100%. Let's set the size to like 60, or you can play around with it. And let's just go over here and add this nice painterly texture. I like to give our hippo painting, our hippo artwork, a painterly look. We'll just go over here, add some dabs. Just some like rounded motions. And then in this area, I'd like to go a little bit darker. I'd like the light to come from this area. So let's grab that second color in the third row. Let's add a bit of that over here. And we can just grab the local color, that first color. You can just tap your finger or hold it on the screen to grab that. And we can just mix the colors on the canvas. Grab this one. So that way you can make a nice blend of colors. Here I'd like to go even lighter. We can use this color. That's the fifth color in the third row. And we can go over there, add some lighter green. Just like this. And to mix this even more, you can tap and hold the smudge tool to make it switch to that Larapuna brush. And now for the smudge tool, let's set the strength, the opacity to 50%. And we can set the size to 30. And we can just go over here. Maybe we can go even bigger. Let's go for like 60. We can go over here and just smudge this. You don't even have to do a lot. But you will still see this texture of that Larapuna brush. And you can switch this up with just grabbing the brush and painting with the colors. I think this gives a really nice painterly feel. Let's also add some more color at the bottom. Let's go back to the brush. Let's grab this color, third color, or not, actually the second color in the third row. Darker one. Let's add a little bit over here. And over here we can add some lighter touches with that fourth color in the third row. And maybe even more with that fifth color in the third row. Did I just say fifth before as well? I don't know, but just play around with these colors, adding some lighter touches here, then grabbing the smudge tool and blending this a bit. So we got that nice painterly texture all over. In this tutorial, I'm taking you from basic to wow in 3 steps, but if you want to take it even a step further, if you really want to develop your Procreate drawing and painting skills, then you will love my Patreon. I have more than 200 tutorials there. They range from beginner level to more advanced levels. They come with special brushes, and I will keep no secrets. I will tell you all about the techniques I love to use in Procreate and take you through all the steps just like I do here. So if you would like to level up, I would love to see you at Patreon. But now let's continue. Now I'd like to get this painterly look on our hippo as well. So let's go to our hippo layers. Let's merge these 2 layers together. Let's pinch them together like this. And then let's tap this layer and turn on alpha lock. So we won't be able to go outside of the shape, but we can use that smudge tool to soften some areas. But let's also add a little bit more color, a little bit of like a darker blue. Let's grab the brush And then let's grab this color, a third color in the first row. And let's make the brush a little bit smaller, like 30%. And let's add a little bit of this color underneath the belly, around the back, a little bit underneath the neck. And this brush has some like color jitter turned on, so you'll get some nice surprises every once in a while, but that will give some nice color variety. A little bit of this darker color underneath the chin, a little bit over here. Don't worry if it looks messy. We can also use this pink second color in the second row. We can add an extra touch of pink on the side of the face. Let's go for something like this. Then let's grab the smudge tool, which is set still to the Larapuna brush. And then let's add that painterly look to our hippo. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 30%. And then we can add that painterly touch here as well. Just going over these areas. And don't smudge the spots that we have created. Don't smudge those too much. I like the surprise colors in here. So just some touches of smudging, touches of that painterly texture. Next, I'd like to go to the layer with the nails and the eyes. Let's also turn on Elf Lock here. And now for the brush, I'd like to go to the painting brushes and use the gouache brush. And for the color, let's use this one. Fifth color in the first row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100%. The size is at 8%. And let's add a little bit of this darker gray to the nails. I feel like they stand out a little bit too much at this point. And let's also go over this corner here. And a little bit over here. Just don't go over the iris. And we can also go in here and grab this darker color, first color in the first row. And we can add a little bit of that to some parts of the iris. Darken that a little bit. And maybe a little bit inside the nostrils. Like this. Then let's also work on our line art a bit. Let's go to our line art layer and set that to Elf Lock as well, so we can only adjust the line art. And then for the color, I'd like to go to this one, third color in the first row. And let's make some of that line art a bit lighter. So we can just go over here, make it more subtle. Just use that gouache brush. And we can leave the eyes, the lines of the eyes, we can leave those dark. The eyebrows can stay dark as well. We can make the nose lighter. And we can keep the mouth pretty dark as well, especially that center part. There's a nice shadow there. So something like this should work. Now that we have this, we are going to merge some layers. We are going to merge the line art with the color layers. Now, if you're a bit scared to do this, if you want to keep a backup, you can first duplicate your layers and then merge the duplicates. Or you can just duplicate your entire project in the Procreate gallery. Now I'm just going to pinch these together, and then we are going to work on the shadow areas. We are going to tap the plus for a new layer, and then we'll tap this new layer and set it to clipping mask. And we'll tap the N right next to the layer name, and we'll scroll up to multiply, which is great for shadows. And for the color, we are going to use this one, second color in the first row. And then with this gouache brush, we are going to add shadow areas, like here in the neck. I'm imagining that the light is coming from here, so I'm thinking about what areas the light would reach. So it would hit here, but this side of the face, of the head, would remain in shadow a bit. But this would be shadow as well, and underneath the neck a little bit. And here you can imagine that snout. There's some shadow there. Also right here underneath the nose. And I'm keeping this very painterly. This is a shadow area, this belly area. Keeping it really painterly and messy. Doesn't have to be super tidy. A little bit of shadow here. Underneath the belly. I'm just focusing on the shadows, not on areas that should be lighter. Just where would the shadow be? Perhaps a little bit over here. And you can always just go to your smudge tool, grab that, and then soften things a little bit. And get that extra painterly texture in there. So this way you can slowly build those shadows up. Go back to the brush, like some more shadows on this cheek area. And also a little bit inside the ear here. Like I said, in between, you can grab the smudge tool, soften it a little bit. I'll make these like wiggly motions, getting that painterly texture in there. And we can go back to the brush. We can make it a little bit smaller, maybe 4%. Could add a little bit of shadow on the white of the eye. Maybe make this a bit more prominent. And maybe this can go a little bit darker. In that belly area. And then just grab the smudge tool, add that painterly, well, extra painterly texture. And this is really a great way to slowly build it up. Now that we have shadows, we are going to work on the light areas. We're going to make a new layer for that. We'll tap the plus. We'll set that layer to clipping mask as well. And this time we'll set the layer blending mode to add, which is great for adding light. And then for our color, we are going to use, well, mostly use this orange. So let's go and let's continue using this gouache brush. Let's make it a little bit bigger, 10% again. And we'll go over the area where the light would be hitting. Over here. And on the ear. And don't go overboard right away. Try to build it up slowly. We'll have light hitting the body here. The belly area. Maybe a little bit over here. And this ear. Those hairs, the top of the ear. And the nostrils. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 5%. We'll have some light on those nostrils. And you can also play around with the color you're using for those highlights. You can also grab this blue color. And then, for instance, we can add a little bit of highlight here on that lip and here. Let's make the brush even smaller, 2%. A little bit of light on a lower lip, a little bit over here. Perhaps a little bit on like the lower eyelid area and a little bit in the eye. Maybe over here. Some more light in that area. And here on that ear. This will get a nice variety. We can also use this blue on the leg. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger again, 10%. Let's add a little bit of light, blue light here. And then let's move back to that orange. Third color, second row, a little bit more light here. And then again, you can use that smudge tool, go over there, and make that more painterly. And since this is on a separate layer, you won't be messing with any of the line art or the dots that we have in here. So it's super safe. Next, I'd like to switch brushes for some cleaner lines. I'd like to go to my treasure chest brush pack. If you don't already have it, just go to freefromflow.com. It's totally free and there's a whole bunch of brushes in there. And I'd like to use one of my favorite brushes, actually. That's why I named it after myself. It's the basic flow brush. And for the color, I like to use this one, fourth color in the second row. Now the opacity is at 100%. Let's set the size to 5. And I'd like to create a nice rim light that can really make your character stand out. So a nice bright light around the face. So we're lightening up that line art actually here. And we can also use this a little bit on the nose. Perhaps a bit more here on the mouth. Lighten this area. And also the top of the head. And here are those hairs, edge of the ear. And here along the head. Nicely lightening up that line. Can add some more light to this nostril. And if you want the light to be a little bit softer, you can make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 10%. Or of course, you could also use the smudge tool to go along that edge if you want to create more of that painterly look. And then what I'd like to do next is add another layer with another layer blending mode. We'll tap the plus, set that layer to clipping mask, and then this time we'll set it to overlay. And I really like using overlay when I want to boost colors in my paintings, when I want to add more vibrance. So let's do that. Let's grab the soft brush under airbrushing over here, the soft brush, and this time we'll use this color over here. First color in the second row, a nice pink color, and I'd like to use it to boost the pinks in this painting. Now the opacity of this brush is still at 80%, the size at 7, I think that's nice. And let's go over the ears, for example, just a little bit. And on the inside here, we can also go over cheek a little bit, this one. And let's make the brush a little bit bigger, 10%, and gently go over that belly area. And you can see how that gives a nice little boost. Then finally, let's work on our background a little bit more. Let's go to our background layer. And for the brush, I'd like to go to the drawing brushes and use the Oberon brush. And for the color, let's use this one. First color in the third row. Now the opacity of this brush should be at 100%. I'll set the size to 8%. And let's add some darker touches over here, for example. Just like suggesting some bushes, perhaps. I'm trying to keep it very abstract. So just some shadow parts. Let's also put some of that underneath here, underneath its body, making these horizontal strokes. So just some abstract shapes, maybe a little bit over here as well. Then let's go lighter. Let's grab this color first. Fifth color in the third row. Add some horizontal lines, some nice texture. And I will go even lighter with this color, sixth color in the third row. Some nice light touches, some sunlight hitting this area. And then we need some grass. I will make the grass on a layer on top of the other so that the grass will cover parts of our hippo. Let's tap the plus. And for the brush, I'd like to go to the inking brushes and use the ink bleed brush. Now for this brush, the opacity should be at 100% and I have the size at 30. And let's just add some touches of grass. For the color, I'd like to use this one. That's the seventh color in the third row. And I'd like to use that in these shadow areas. Make some grass covering parts of its feet. Some grass over here. You can barely see it, but that makes it nice and subtle. Some grass over here. And then for the light area, we will use this color. Fifth color in the third row. We can go on top and add some lighter grass blades. And we can also add some extra touches like this, extra little details. It's okay if some of these lines are just floating around a bit. Let's keep it playful. You can also add some here. Maybe there's just some light going behind our hippo. hitting some of these grass parts. Maybe some extra lines like this. And then here, with just some painterly brush strokes, some smudging, and making use of layer blending modes, you have taken this little hippo to the next level. I hope you had fun, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for the next video.